What if the thing you're trying hardest to control is the very thing controlling you? It's a haunting truth. Control promises safety, yet delivers suffering. The root of suffering is attachment. But what if the peace you are chasing begins only when you release control? Imagine the relief of living without the constant battle in your head. Why do we fight so hard against the very flow that wants to carry us? Stay with me, because at the end, I'll reveal a bonus lesson that could free you forever. Before we begin with number 1, subscribe to Deep Wisdom, where every video is a doorway to calm, clarity, and timeless Buddhist insight you won't find anywhere else. Let's begin. 1. Fear creates the chains we wear. Fear creates the chains we wear. Have you ever noticed how, the moment fear arises, the body tightens, the mind sharpens, and you begin to cling? Why does fear always push us to tighten our grip, even when it suffocates us? We believe that control will protect us, but instead, it often strangles the very peace we are seeking. The tighter you cling, the more life slips away. These words reveal a truth that life has been whispering all along. Fear is like a shadow. You only see it when you turn your back to the light. The more you resist it, the darker it grows. And yet, when you face the light of awareness, the shadow has no substance at all. In Buddhist wisdom, fear is not something to defeat, but something to understand. It is born from illusion of permanence, of possession, of certainty. But reality is flowing, moving, breathing beyond our grasp. To fight it is to fight the river itself. Consider how often this shows up in daily life. You try to control relationships, but the more you grip, the more distance appears. You try to control your career, but the tighter you hold expectations, the more stress corrodes your joy. Even with your own emotions, you may try to suppress sadness or force happiness, only to feel even more trapped. Can you see how control, driven by fear, builds the prison you are standing inside? Now imagine another way. With each breath, visualize a knot in your chest slowly loosening. You do not need to fix everything. You do not need to predict tomorrow. In this very moment, you can allow life to unfold. This is not weakness, it is trust, it is courage. True strength does not come from controlling the storm, but from learning how to stand calmly in the rain. As the Buddha taught, suffering is born not from what happens, but from how we cling to what happens. Control is the cage, surrender is the flight. Fear vanishes the moment you stop demanding life to obey you. When you release the grip, the heart finds space, the mind finds clarity, and peace finds you. Ask yourself now, what have you been gripping so tightly that it now grips you? Is it the approval of others, the weight of your past, the fear of failure? What if, for a single breath, you allowed your hands to open, your heart to soften, and your mind to trust? Say within, I am not bound by fear. My worth is not in control, but in trust. I allow life to unfold. These are not empty affirmations, but seeds of liberation. Every time you repeat them, you loosen one more chain, you open one more door, you let one more ray of light enter the shadow. Remember, life does not ask you to hold on, it asks you to flow. And the moment you stop controlling, everything begins to move well, like water finding its natural path. The tighter you grip, the faster life slips through your fingers. True power lives in surrender. 2. The illusion of the fist. Why does control feel like power, yet leave us powerless? This is the paradox most of us carry without noticing. We grip, we demand, we plan every detail, believing that certainty is strength. Yet the tighter we close our fists around life, the more it escapes us. What you try to hold in your fist, you lose. These words are not only wisdom, but a mirror. They reveal how what we chase so hard often vanishes the moment we think we own it. Life is water. It slips through the hand that closes, but rests gently in the open palm. This is the truth that Buddhist philosophy whispers to us. When you close your fist, you create resistance. When you open your palm, you create harmony. Control is heavy, but trust is light. Control is fear, but openness is love. Think of the moments in your life when you clung too tightly to a person, to an outcome, to an identity. Did it bring peace, or did it exhaust your spirit? In the modern world, this illusion is everywhere. We try to control careers by forcing constant success, yet we forget that growth comes with cycles of failure. We try to control relationships by clinging to expectations, yet love only blossoms in freedom. Even with time itself, we cling to schedules and calendars as if holding tightly could stop the passing of days. Can you see how the fist only makes you tired, while the open hand can hold more than you ever imagined? Now, close your eyes for a moment. Picture your fears as stones you've been carrying. Each one is labeled: fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of the unknown. Place those stones gently into a flowing river. Watch as the water carries them away, not with resistance, but with ease. Breathe deeply and whisper within, I open my hands to life. Peace enters when control leaves. I trust the river to carry me. This is not weakness. This is awakening. The Buddha often taught that freedom arises not from force, but from letting go of the delusion that life belongs to us. You do not control the sun's rising, the winds blowing, or the heart's beating. Yet all of these sustain you. Why not then trust the same wisdom that moves the stars to also move your life? Ask yourself quietly, are you clutching at life or letting it flow through you? Notice how your body feels when you grip too tightly. Tension in the chest, restlessness in the mind. Then notice the peace that comes with release. Every breath is an invitation to open your palm once more. The truth is simple. Life was never asking to be controlled. It was asking to be trusted. The more you surrender, the more you receive. The illusion of the fist is powerful, but the reality of the open hand is freedom. And when you stop controlling, everything begins to go well, because life finally has space to guide you. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, I choose inner freedom. 3. The trap of thought suppression. Why do unwanted thoughts return stronger when we fight them? This is the trap many of us fall into. The belief that if we push the mind hard enough, if we resist fiercely enough, we will conquer the thoughts that disturb us. Yet again and again, we find that the more we resist, the more those thoughts grow. What you resist grows stronger. This is not only a teaching, but a direct observation of the human mind. Think of it like a fire fed by your own breath. The more you blow to put it out, the larger it burns. Thoughts behave the same way. When we struggle against them, when we fear them, when we try to bury them, we give them more energy. They begin to circle back, louder, sharper, heavier. The trap is not in the thought itself, but in the fight against it. In Buddhism, the mind is compared to a sky, vast and open, while thoughts are passing clouds. Some are dark, some are light, but none remain forever. The mistake arises when we chase the clouds, trying to hold the ones we like or push away the ones we dislike. Can the sky ever be disturbed by the passing clouds? No, it simply remains, unchanging. spacious, infinite. And so too is your true awareness. Look at your own life. Perhaps you've tried to force yourself not to feel anger, only to have it return as resentment. Perhaps you've tried to silence worry, only to find it shouting even louder at night. Or perhaps you've tried to control sadness, but it lingers in the corners of your heart. These are the consequences of suppression. It multiplies what it tries to destroy. Now, close your eyes and imagine yourself sitting beside a calm lake. Each thought that arises is like a leaf floating across the surface. You do not need to catch the leaf. You do not need to push it away. Simply allow it to drift. Whisper within, I am the witness, not the thought. My mind can rest in stillness. I release the need to fight. This is the essence of mindfulness. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it. You are not the thought. You are the awareness that sees it. When you shift into this space, the battle ends and peace begins. As the Buddha taught, liberation is not in winning against the mind, but in no longer being enslaved by it. So ask yourself, what thought have you been fighting that you could instead allow to pass? Perhaps it is a memory, perhaps a fear, perhaps a judgment of yourself. What if, instead of fighting, you watched it drift by like a cloud, untouched by your resistance? Remember this truth. The mind finds stillness not through suppression, but through allowing. The less you fight, the lighter you become. And when you stop controlling even your thoughts, life begins to move freely, like water flowing without obstruction. True freedom is not found in the struggle, but in surrender. 4. Surrender is the greater strength. Could letting go be the ultimate act of courage? It sounds almost contradictory, for the world has taught us that strength is about holding on, pushing harder, never bending. Yet the wisdom of life tells a different story. Yielding is strength, forcing is weakness. What appears soft is often unbreakable, and what appears rigid is the first to shatter. Picture a tree standing in the heart of a storm. The one that bends, that sways with the wind, survives. The one that resists, stiff and unwilling, cracks under the pressure. So too is the human spirit. When you cling with force, you break under life's weight. But when you surrender, you discover a strength greater than your own, the strength of harmony with life itself. So many of us confuse surrender with defeat. We think letting go means giving up, or that acceptance means passivity. But surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is recognizing that the river is already flowing, that the wind is already moving, that life already carries within it an intelligence far deeper than our grasp. To surrender is to align with that rhythm instead of fighting against it. Think about your own struggles. Perhaps you've been trying to force a relationship to work, only to feel drained. Or you've been trying to control every detail of your career, leaving yourself restless and anxious. Maybe you've even been fighting your own emotions, demanding that they vanish. Can you see how this rigidity leaves you weary? What if instead you chose to bend, to trust, to allow? Close your eyes and imagine yourself as a great tree. Your roots are deep, grounded in trust. Your trunk is steady, built on faith. And your branches sway gently with the wind, unafraid of the storm. You bend, but you do not break. Whisper within, strength lives in my surrender. I trust the greater design. The Buddha reminded us that clinging is the source of suffering. When we cling, we resist the impermanence of life. But when we surrender, we move in rhythm with impermanence, and in that flow we find peace. To surrender is not to abandon effort. It is to release the illusion that you control the outcome. You still walk the path, but you trust the path to carry you where you need to go. Ask yourself with honesty, where in your life could surrender give you more power than control? Perhaps in your relationships, where love flourishes in freedom. Perhaps in your work, where creativity is born from openness. Or perhaps within your heart, where healing begins only when resistance ends. True courage is not in fighting the storm, but in trusting that you can weather it. The tree that bends survives. The heart that surrenders thrives. And the moment you stop controlling, everything begins to move well, for life has always known how to guide you. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "I choose inner freedom." 5. The armor of control is control truly protection, or just a cage? Many of us wear control like armor, believing it will shield us from pain, rejection, or failure. But what begins as protection slowly becomes a prison. The walls you build for safety also keep you trapped. In trying to shield yourself from suffering, you also lock yourself away from joy, connection, and freedom. Imagine armor that once saved your life in battle. At first, it gave you strength, courage, and defense. But as time passed, the battle ended, and still you carried its weight. Piece by piece, it became heavier until it no longer protected you, it burdened you. This is what control does. It hardens your heart, stiffens your spirit, and closes you off from the very life you wish to experience. In Buddhist wisdom, control is often a disguise for fear. You control because you fear uncertainty. You control because you fear loss. You control because you fear vulnerability. Yet life was never meant to be perfectly predictable. It breathes in cycles. It unfolds in mystery. It teaches in ways the mind cannot foresee. By trying to protect yourself from its flow, you miss the beauty of its gifts. Think about it in your own life. Perhaps you have built emotional walls, keeping people at a distance to avoid being hurt. But those same walls also block love from reaching you. Perhaps you micromanage every step of your future, thinking it will give you safety, but instead you feel restless and drained. Perhaps you wear a mask of control in your relationships, your career, or even your self-image so tightly that you forget who you truly are beneath it. Now, take a deep breath. Close your eyes and imagine yourself removing this armor. A chest plate of fear, a helmet of worry, the heavy shield of perfection. Place each piece on the ground, one by one. With every release, feel lighter, freer, softer. Whisper within, "I lay down the armor of fear. My safety is in openness. My heart is free to feel." True protection does not come from control. It comes from awareness. It comes from trust. It comes from the resilience of knowing that whatever arises, you have the capacity to meet it. Just as the Buddha taught, suffering is not avoided by building walls, but by cultivating wisdom and compassion. Ask yourself gently, what armor of control have you been wearing for too long? Is it the armor of perfection, always needing to appear flawless? Is it the armor of certainty, refusing to accept change? Or is it the armor of emotional distance, fearing intimacy and openness? Remember, control may keep danger out, but it also keeps life out. The moment you release it, you will see that true safety was never in the armor. It was in your own openness, your own heart, your own courage to live fully. And when you stop controlling, life no longer feels heavy. It begins to flow, light and effortless, just as it was always meant to. 6. The mirror of clinging. What if control is just fear reflecting itself back to us? We imagine control as strength, but often it is nothing more than attachment disguised as power. The Buddha said, "Attachment is the root of suffering." When we cling, we are not holding life, we are holding fear. Control is simply the mirror where this fear stares back at us. Think of a mirror fogged with breath. You can see shapes, outlines, but nothing clearly. This is what clinging does to the mind. It blurs truth, distorts peace, and hides the calm that is already within you. The moment you stop clinging, the fog clears, and your reflection, the clarity of your true nature, appears. Control does not reveal who you are. Release does. In daily life, this fog shows up in many ways. You cling to relationships out of fear of being alone. You cling to plans because the unknown frightens you. You cling to possessions because you believe they anchor your worth. But what happens? The more you cling, the more restless you become. The tighter you hold, the more you fear losing. And so, suffering grows from the very thing you thought would bring comfort. Now, take a breath and imagine a foggy mirror before you. With each slow exhale, picture yourself wiping the glass clean. Behind the haze, your face emerges, not strained, not fearful, but open, calm, and present. Whisper softly, "I release my clinging to certainty." Freedom grows where attachment ends. My heart rests in clarity. These words are not wishes, but reminders of the truth you already carry. The Buddha's wisdom shows us that nothing is permanent. People change, seasons shift, even the body transforms. To cling is to fight the nature of existence itself. Can you see how exhausting that is? But when you let go, when you release the need for things to stay the same, peace arises naturally. You don't have to create it, it is already there, waiting behind the fog. Ask yourself with honesty, what fear is mirrored in the things you cling to most? Is it the fear of losing control, the fear of uncertainty, or the fear of your own vulnerability? Look deeply, for the mirror will always reveal what lies beneath the grasp. The truth is not hidden. It is simply waiting for you to stop breathing fog onto the glass. Life is never asking you to grip harder. It is inviting you to soften. It is reminding you that you are not fragile, but free. And the moment you release attachment, you no longer live in fear's reflection. You live in clarity's light. When you stop controlling, when you stop clinging, everything begins to move well. The fog lifts, the mirror clears, and you finally see freedom was never outside of you. It was always in the letting go. 7. The calm beyond fear. What happens to fear when we stop giving it control? For most of us, fear feels like a force that governs our choices, our actions, even our sense of self. Yet, when we look more closely, we see something surprising. Fear is often loud, but not truly powerful. Fear has no teeth when faced in silence. Its bark is strong, but its bite is weak. Think of a barking dog chained to a post. From a distance, the noise may terrify you. It sounds threatening, demanding your attention. But if you step closer with awareness, you notice the chain. The dog cannot reach you. Fear behaves in the same way. It barks loudly in the mind, but it cannot touch your deepest self unless you run from it or feed it with resistance. Buddhist wisdom teaches that fear is a projection, a thought about a future that has not yet arrived. It thrives on what if, but rarely on what is. When you remain in the present, when you choose silence over reaction, fear begins to lose its power. It rattles, but it cannot rule you. The storm makes noise, but the mountain remains still. Look at your own life. How many times did fear tell you that you would fail, only for you to succeed? How many times did it warn you of rejection only for love to embrace you? How many nights did you stay awake, certain disaster was coming, only to wake to an ordinary day? Fear barks, but how often does it truly bite? Now close your eyes and picture yourself sitting inside a quiet room. Outside, fear barks, restless and loud. But there is a wall between you and it, a wall built of calm awareness. You sit in silence, untouched, steady, whisper within, "Fear does not command me. My calm is stronger than my worry. Silence is my shield." Feel these words settle in your heart like stones grounding you firmly to the earth. The Buddha often reminded us that freedom is found not in controlling fear, but in no longer being controlled by it. When you stop feeding fear with resistance or avoidance, it weakens. It is like a shadow that disappears when you turn toward the light. This is the calm beyond fear, not the absence of challenges, but the presence of inner stillness stronger than any worry. Ask yourself gently, when was the last time fear barked loudly but never bit you? Reflect on how much of your suffering came not from reality, but from the mind's anxious echo. And then ask yourself, what would happen if, the next time fear barked, you simply sat in silence and let it exhaust itself? Remember this truth: fear thrives on your reaction, but it withers in your calm. The moment you stop controlling fear, you see it clearly for what it is, loud but powerless. And in that silence, life begins to move well again, for your spirit is no longer held hostage by the noise of the mind. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "I choose inner freedom." 8. Trusting the unknown path. What if the unknown was not danger, but possibility? The mind, craving certainty, often trembles before what it cannot predict. It paints the unknown as a place of threat, as if every shadow hides a danger. Yet in truth, the unknown is not emptiness, it is potential. When nothing is certain, everything is possible. These words remind us that freedom is born in mystery, not in control. Picture yourself walking into a foggy forest. At first, the mist seems overwhelming, hiding the path ahead. But notice what happens with each step. You see just enough to continue. And then again, with another step, the path reveals itself. You may not see the whole journey, but you see enough to move forward. This is the nature of trust. You do not need to see the entire road. You need only the courage to take the next step. Buddhist wisdom shows us that clinging to certainty is one of the roots of suffering. We demand guarantees, but life never offers them. Instead, it offers presence, the unfolding moment by moment. The unknown is not against you. It is life's way of guiding you into growth, into change, into becoming. What you call uncertainty, the Buddha might call impermanence, a reminder that everything moves, everything evolves, and in that flow lies freedom. Reflect on your own life. How many blessings entered from paths you did not expect? How many opportunities arose from detours you once feared? Perhaps the job you thought you lost opened the way to something better. Perhaps the relationship that ended made space for deeper love. Again and again, life reveals that what feels uncertain today can become the very ground of tomorrow's joy. Now, take a deep breath and visualize yourself stepping into a misty forest. You cannot see far ahead, but you can feel the earth steady beneath your feet. With every step, the fog lifts a little, showing you exactly what you need in this moment. Whisper softly, "I trust the unfolding of life. The unknown is my ally. I walk with courage into mystery." Let these words anchor you in the knowing that trust is stronger than fear. The truth is, the unknown has always been your companion. Each breath you take is a step into mystery. Each sunrise is a new chapter never lived before. To resist it is to resist life itself, but to embrace it is to awaken to possibility. The river flows where it must. Your task is not to control it, but to flow with it. Ask yourself, do you fear the unknown, or does it secretly carry your freedom? Look closely, and you may see that fear was never about the unknown itself, but about the stories the mind told about it. Silence those stories, and all that remains is the openness of possibility. The moment you stop controlling and begin trusting, the unknown ceases to be a threat. It becomes a gift, an invitation to walk with courage, to discover, to grow. And when you surrender to that path, everything begins to move well, exactly as it was always meant to. 9. The silence that heals. Why is silence feared when it holds our deepest healing? We fill our lives with noise, endless chatter, constant planning, the hum of distraction, because silence feels unfamiliar, even threatening. Yet, it is in silence that the mind uncovers its own depth and the heart remembers its natural rhythm. In silence, the storm inside finds rest. Words, action, and control may soothe temporarily, but only stillness reveals what is truly alive within us. Consider a lake. When the water is stirred by wind, its surface is restless, reflecting only fragments of light. But when the ripples settle, the lake mirrors the sky perfectly, showing clarity and depth that was always there beneath the disturbance. Silence works in the same way. When you stop forcing, stop grasping, and stop reacting, the turbulence of the mind subsides, and the hidden calm within emerges. Many of us fear silence because it exposes us to ourselves. Emotions we try to avoid, grief, longing, doubt, arise when the mind is still. Yet this confrontation is not punishment, it is the first step toward healing. The Buddha taught that suffering is alleviated not by distraction, but by mindful presence. To face the quiet is to face the truth of what we have carried, and in that acknowledgement, peace begins to flow. Think of your own life. When was the last time you allowed a quiet moment to simply exist? Perhaps it was a walk in the early morning, the pause between tasks, or a moment of meditation. Notice how even a few breaths in silence can soothe tension, ease the heart, and clarify thought. Silence is not emptiness, it is presence, a mirror reflecting both what troubles us and what sustains us. Now close your eyes and imagine sitting beside a perfectly still lake. The air is calm, the water unmoving. Your mind begins to mirror that stillness. Whisper within, I welcome silence as my refuge. My heart heals in stillness. Peace rises within me. Feel each breath settling the ripples of worry, allowing the mind to return to its natural, expansive state. Silence teaches us another truth. Life does not need our constant interference. The world unfolds without our control. The river flows without our insistence. The storm passes when we stop fighting it. In these quiet moments, we realize that our inner wisdom and clarity have always been accessible. We only needed the courage to pause, to stop, and to listen. Ask yourself gently, when was the last time silence healed you more than words? Consider the times when talking, planning, or controlling could not provide the peace that stillness alone offered. This is the gift of surrender. Not doing, not holding, not resisting, but simply being. The moment you stop controlling, you create space for silence to work its magic. And in that stillness, everything begins to go well. the storm inside settles, clarity returns, and your heart remembers its natural calm. Life flows effortlessly because you have finally learned the quiet power of letting go. 10. Detachment as true freedom. What if not needing control gave you more power than control itself? Many of us believe that strength comes from holding on tightly, from ensuring outcomes, from gripping life with all our might. Yet the deepest wisdom tells a different story. True power arises in release, in detachment, in trusting that life can unfold without our insistence. Freedom is not in having, but in not needing. Picture a bird perched on a branch. The bird can only soar when it lets go. If it clings too tightly, afraid to leave, it remains trapped, bound by its own fear. But the moment it releases, it discovers flight. Detachment works the same way in our lives. The less we cling to people, outcomes, or even our own expectations, the more we expand, the more we discover the space for possibility, joy, and true freedom. Control creates tension. It is the tightening of muscles, the narrowing of thought, the shadow of fear pressing upon the heart. Detachment, on the other hand, opens the chest, softens the mind, and clears the fog of anxiety. In detachment, we stop striving to hold life in our fists. We stop demanding that the world bend to our desires. And in that release, a subtle, profound strength arises, a strength rooted in trust, presence, and clarity. Consider your own attachments. Perhaps it is a relationship you try to shape, a career you try to force, a belief about yourself that limits your growth. Each attachment carries an invisible weight, a subtle form of bondage. When we cling, we tighten the cage around our own hearts. When we let go, even just a little, the bars dissolve and the spirit remembers how to breathe. Close your eyes and visualize a bird resting gently in your hand. Feel its warmth, its life. And now, slowly, open your hand and release it. Watch as it rises effortlessly into the sky. Whisper within, I am free because I let go. My joy is not tied to outcomes. I fly by releasing, not by clinging. With each breath, sense the expansion within, the lightness that comes from surrendering attachment. Buddhist teachings remind us that clinging is the root of suffering, and detachment is the path to liberation. To detach is not to abandon life or to become indifferent. It is to embrace life fully, without the need to control it. It is to live with openness, with curiosity, and with trust that the universe carries the flow of events far beyond our own limited grasp. Ask yourself now, what freedom could you find in releasing one attachment today? Perhaps a worry, a need for approval, a past regret. Imagine letting it go just for a moment and noticing the space it creates inside your mind and heart. The moment you release, you find not loss, but presence, not emptiness, but a quiet joy. The truth is simple, yet profound. Control binds, release frees. The tighter you hold, the smaller your world becomes. The more you let go, the wider your horizon grows. And when you stop controlling, when you embrace detachment, everything begins to move well. Life unfolds naturally, and you discover a freedom so vast it had been inside you all along, waiting for your hand to open. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, I choose inner freedom. 11. Fear into trust. How can fear transform into trust without force? Most of us approach fear as an enemy to defeat, a shadow to banish, a storm to control. Yet the more we struggle, the louder it becomes, the heavier it feels. The wisdom of life teaches us a different path. When you face fear, it dissolves into trust. Trust does not oppose fear. It simply allows it to be seen, known, and understood. Imagine a candle in a dark room. The flame does not fight the darkness, it simply exists, illuminating what was hidden. Slowly, the shadows recede. Fear behaves in the same way. When you bring awareness, calm, and presence to it, it begins to melt. Not because you struggle, but because you allow it to transform. Your mind becomes the gentle light in which fear loses its grip. Think of your own life. Perhaps fear has stopped you from speaking your truth, from stepping into opportunity, or from opening your heart. You may have tried to push it away or control it, only to feel it return with greater intensity. This is natural. Fear resists force, but yields to understanding. The moment you stop trying to fight it and instead breathe into it, fear softens. It reveals itself as a teacher, guiding you toward trust, courage, and clarity. Now, close your eyes and visualize a single candle in a dark space. Let the flame grow steady and warm. See the shadows begin to fade. Whisper within, "I breathe trust into my heart." Fear melts away in my presence. I walk with faith in each step. Feel the subtle shift inside, the softening of tension, the quiet reassurance that life is unfolding and that you can move through it with trust instead of struggle. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that fear is impermanent. It arises and passes like waves on the shore. When you meet fear with presence rather than resistance, it ceases to dominate your mind. Trust is not an abstract idea. It is the natural outcome of awareness and acceptance. To transform fear is not to control it, but to let it guide you gently toward understanding. Ask yourself quietly, what fear in your life is waiting to be transformed by trust? Perhaps it is fear of failure, of rejection, of the unknown, or even of yourself. Imagine facing it with calm, allowing it to exist without judgment. Let the light of your awareness illuminate it. Watch it dissolve into faith, leaving space for clarity, courage, and peace. The truth is simple, yet profound. Fear only holds power when we resist it. When you stop controlling, when you face fear without struggle, it begins to transform naturally into trust. Life becomes lighter, decisions clearer, and each step forward easier. The candle burns steadily, the darkness fades, and you realize that trust is not something you seek. It is the quiet presence that emerges the moment fear is met with awareness. In that space, everything begins to go well. Bonus lesson: living without the grip. What does life look like when you no longer cling to control? For most of us, life is a constant struggle to hold, to manage, to plan every detail, believing that security lies in a tight grip. Yet the tighter we hold, the more life resists, the more tension builds within us. Peace is not gained by force, but by release. True ease emerges not from control, but from letting go, from living with open hands and an open heart. Imagine a bird gliding through the sky. If it fights the wind, flapping frantically, it expends energy and struggles to move forward. But if it allows the wind to carry it, adjusting gently with the currents, it soars effortlessly, discovering freedom it never imagined. This is the wisdom of release. When you stop clenching, when you stop forcing, life begins to move in harmony with your being, and your soul feels lighter. We cling to control out of fear of loss, of failure, of the unknown. We try to secure happiness by managing outcomes, forgetting that life itself is a living flow, always changing, always moving. Yet when we release our need to direct every moment, we discover a different kind of power, the power to breathe deeply, to respond gracefully, to exist fully in the present. Think about your own days. How much energy is spent resisting what cannot be changed? How many moments are lost in worry, planning, or trying to predict the unpredictable? And how much lighter would you feel if you simply allowed life to unfold, trusting the currents that have always carried you safely through storms before? Close your eyes and envision yourself above the clouds, your body weightless, carried effortlessly by the wind. Each gust lifts you higher, not because you fight it, but because you allow it to guide you. Whisper gently, "I live with open hands. My soul is lighter without control. Peace flows through me." Feel the release in your chest, the ease in your mind, the freedom in your heart. Buddhist teachings remind us that clinging is the root of suffering. The more we try to hold on to life, the more we feel its resistance. Yet the moment we loosen our grip, life begins to move with us instead of against us. Release is not abandonment. It is trust, awareness, and courage combined. It is the realization that life's flow is wiser than our control, and that peace always resides in surrender. Ask yourself quietly, what would your life feel like if you no longer lived with clenched fists? How different would your relationships, your work, your inner world be if you allowed the natural rhythm of life to guide you? The truth is simple. Living without the grip does not mean inaction. It means presence, trust, and alignment with life's current. When you stop controlling, everything begins to move well. You discover a calm so deep it feels like flying, a freedom so vast it feels infinite. And in this surrender, you finally understand that peace was never something to grasp. It was always within you, waiting for your hands to open. Quick summary of the principles. Fear creates the chains we wear. Fear is the reason we cling so tightly to life. The more we grip, the more trapped we feel. Instead of protecting us, fear multiplies suffering by convincing us that control equals safety. The illusion of the fist. Control feels like power, but in truth, it drains us. Like holding onto something too tightly, the more we clutch, the faster it slips away. True strength comes from opening our hands to life's natural flow. The trap of thought suppression. We often try to control the mind by pushing away unwanted thoughts, but suppression only makes them louder and more persistent. The key is awareness and allowing thoughts to pass without feeding them. Surrender is the greater strength. Letting go isn't weakness, it's a form of inner mastery. By softening instead of resisting, you create resilience. Real courage lies in surrender, not in forcing life to obey your will. The armor of control. Control disguises itself as protection, but it is really a heavy burden. The walls and defenses we build eventually become cages. Freedom begins when we no longer hide behind the need to control. The mirror of clinging. What we try to control often reveals our deepest fears. Control is a mirror that reflects our attachments. Once we stop clinging, clarity returns and fear loosens its hold. The calm beyond fear. When you stop giving fear control, it begins to lose its power. It may be loud, but it cannot harm you if you face it with calm awareness. Peace is born from presence, not resistance. Trusting the unknown path. The unknown is not always danger. It can also be opportunity. By learning to trust uncertainty, you open yourself to new possibilities. Fear fades when curiosity and trust take its place. The silence that heals. We avoid silence because it feels empty, but it is deeply restorative. In stillness, the storms of the mind begin to settle. Silence is where healing and inner clarity naturally arise. Detachment as true freedom. Freedom does not come from controlling life, but from not needing to control it. When you let go of attachment, you open the door to joy and inner peace. Detachment gives you real power. Fear into trust. Fear transforms the moment you face it with awareness and compassion. By leaning into it, you discover that trust was always waiting behind it. Fear becomes a teacher that leads you to courage. Living without the grip. When you release the need to control, life flows more easily. Your mind grows lighter, your heart more open, and peace enters naturally. This is the way of freedom, living without clenching at every moment. When you stop controlling, life does not collapse. It begins to breathe. Fear loses its throne, and peace quietly takes its rightful seat within you. The Buddha's timeless teaching reminds us, the root of suffering is attachment. The very things we try to hold on to are the things that cause us pain. By loosening our grip, we create space for healing, clarity, and flow. Zen wisdom teaches that mastery is not in conquering the world, but in conquering the self. True strength is not found in clenching tighter, but in opening wider. When we stop resisting and start trusting, fear dissolves, thoughts settle, and life unfolds in harmony. Letting go does not mean losing. It means gaining the freedom to live as we were meant to. So ask yourself, what part of your life is asking you to release control so that peace can finally enter? Remember, surrender is not the end of power. It is the beginning of true freedom. If this teaching touched your heart, like and share this video. Leave your reflections in the comment box and subscribe to Deep Wisdom for more inspiring Buddhist insights on living a peaceful life.